Okay, so I'm about to do a shipment of the GVS1 batteries, and I normally pull one out to get some test numbers done on it. So I'm about to do a capacity test, and I figured it would be a good time to actually monitor the charge and discharge curve of the battery. That way I can get it all graphed out, and then I will compare it to a lead acid battery. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run a load test. That way we will completely drain it down. I have it set for 10.2 volts. These are safe down to 2.5. I don't recommend you do that, but that way we'll get a nice discharge curve and charge curve. So I'm going to hit this real quick and get this up to like 14.4. And then I'm going to start the capacity test. All right, starting the capacity test right after I clear the data. Okay, GVS1, full discharge curve / capacity test, monitoring online, starting now. I'm going to stop the filming because this is going to run for several hours. So stopping now, and I'll be back when it's closer to them. So quick update, we are 46.4 amp hours into the test. Still hanging out at 12.95 volts as well, so 57% capacity, still over nominal. The test has been running for 3 hours, 3 minutes, and 10 seconds. Gonna let it run for a bit more. Quick update, 60 amp hours in, still sitting at 12.9 volts. About 4 hours, 3 hours, 57 minutes. $80 amp hours in, sitting at 12.63 volts. It's been 5 hours and 18 minutes. Okay, it is getting pretty close now to the rated capacity. We have 12.47 volts. This is 87.23 amps in. Right, so you can see right here we have been going for 5 hours and 45 minutes. 87.73 amp hours and 12.45 volts. We're also right at the ideal temperature of 26 Celsius. 25 Celsius is what they consider baseline. Okay, so right here, the GVS1 is about to cross 90 amp hours of capacity, and it's still over 12 volts. So we've now gotten the entire listed capacity of the battery and are still sitting at 12.21 volts. Right now we are over 90 amp hours of current. So see how much more we have. Okay, so almost 6 hours in, and we just now hit the 12 volt mark. We are now below 12 volts and creeping up on 91 amp hours of current. But now the decline is going to be fairly swift because this is how LifePo4 acts. It holds a very consistent voltage all throughout its cycle, and then at the end it begins falling more and more rapidly until it'll go into the tens, and the load will stop pulling and turn off, and then we'll know our capacity. We are over 91 amp hours now. We have now crossed the 93 amp hour mark and are getting pretty close to 11 volts. Okay, so we got about 93.827 amp hours total. The voltage is slowly recovering. It's at like 10.9 now, but it was 90 amp hours above 12 volts. Then we had another 3 amp hours between over 11, so from 11 to 12. And then the rest, that point 0.8 was actually from 11 down to 10.2. So now we are going to go ahead and charge this up. You now see the beginning of the curve. It's going to almost immediately go back up into the high 12s. It's not going to take very long at all. Okay, so I'm going to let this go and we will keep an eye on it. When it's done, I will graph it both out so we'll have a visual representation of what the voltage looks like over time, both discharging and charging, and the total capacity. Okay, so I had some time to get everything graphed out, and the total tested amp hours is 93.8, which is a bit over 4% more than the actual rated capacity of the battery. It's also worth noting that the battery was still over 12 volts, even as it exceeded its rated capacity, so almost all of the usable energy is above 12 volts with these batteries. In fact, looking at this, it looks like we held 13 volts for over 40% of the battery cycle. So not even fully charged, this battery is still going to be pushing out serious power and voltages higher than lead acid gives anywhere in its life cycle. As a reference, lead acid provides about 60% of its rated capacity that's usable energy during tests like this, unless you do it at a very, very slow rate of in the equivalent of 0.05 C, which would take 20 hours just to do the capacity test. So it ends up being 104% usable versus 60% usable with the lead acid, and that's a pretty big difference. As far as the consistency goes, the battery dropped under a quarter of a volt between fully charged at 100% and 30% state of charge. So if you look at here where I have it lined up in this graph, you can see the differences under 0.25 for the longevity of it. Here we have the charging curve of the GVS1. Charging at 60 amps from a completely discharged battery, we are back up into the 13-volt range in under 5 minutes. After that, it's a fairly steady climb back up. It holds in the 13-volt range until it hits a full charge, where you see here it climbs quickly and gets up into the 14 volts, and our CCCV charger very quickly tapers off how many amps are going to the battery. This is for entertainment purposes only. These two batteries are not in even remotely close to the same league. I ran the 15 amp discharge test on a brand new standard lead acid battery that I picked up from Walmart a couple of days ago and put it side by side with how the GVS one performs. So I'm not going to spend too much time getting into this. It's just a pretty comical comparison. If anyone was interested, I will leave it here for a couple seconds and let you check it out if you're interested. Okay, so I'll be posting additional data on this battery as it's collected, but based on the data that we have so far, this battery just blows the doors off of everything and even close to its price range. We hope to get some of the other batteries that a lot of people are running soon so we can put them on our test bench and get a direct comparison. But from what we've seen, I'm not going to be surprised if the GVS1 is outperforming batteries 2 and even 3 times its cost. Right now, we are back ordered. We appreciate the support that everyone has shown. We were not expecting to sell these batteries so quickly, but we should have new batteries in roughly mid-March, late March at the very latest. So if you want one, we are accepting pre-orders. You can check us out at www.glowevoltage.com. And again, it is the GVS1 battery that we were doing all of the testing on today.